The Industrial Revolution has affected our world today by bettering factory life for all people involved. I'm Brianna Hebert.
I'm Nicole Gibson.
I'm Amir Masick.
I'm Marsha Ball. During the Industrial Revolution, more than 25,000 people died because of the labor, and over 1 million injuries occurred because of the working jobs that they were doing. Due to the Industrial Revolution, factory life was not so good back then because of the wage gaps that occurred and how so many people disrespected the immigrants who worked the labor, and also how the children working in factories had more injuries.
The immigrants had horrible working conditions in the Industrial Revolution because if they fell asleep, they would get beat up, or if they said like bad words to other workers, they would get beat up. Now, if they do that, they would just get fired. 20 million immigrants back then in the Industrial Revolution came from Europe, more from West and South Europe, and now they would just come back from everywhere, Europe, Africa. Many immigrants suffered from poverty back in the Industrial Revolution because they didn't have homes, they didn't get paid good, they didn't have food. Nowadays they get paid good and they would have homes, food, drinks. They all had to have, they were treated poorly in the Industrial Revolution because they came from other countries that like they didn't know how to speak different languages, our language, English. And nowadays, if you somebody messes up on a word and you make fun of them, you would get fired.
Yeah, so all in all, with the immigrants, they were really disrespected back during the Industrial Revolution, but now we've all come to respect them, and we know that obviously there might be hardships, but they can adapt to the U.S. ways just like we do. So our next point is the wage gap. So during the Industrial Revolution, men were making about 15 shillings while women were only making 7, and that included children as well. So you can already see the start of the wage gap between the men and women during the Industrial Revolution during factory life. And this was just because men had greater strength. So this increased their productivity rate while women were weaker, so their productivity rate was less. And so nowadays men make about 51,000 and women make about 40,000, which means that women are making about 78% of what men are making, which is way better than what it was during the Industrial Revolution. And that is mostly due to companies striving for equal pay, so they want to pay their employees equally. So in 1963, the Equal Pay Act was established, which requires employers to pay men and women close to the same amount due to the work they do. So it will no longer depend on how they did the work, like which one was better, but now it depends on just if you did the work or not, you will get paid the same.
Our next point is factory workers. During the Industrial Revolution, the youngest age you could start working was 4, but today the youngest age you can start working is 14, but 16 without many restrictions. In the factory, kids worked as scavengers and piecers. A scavenger is a kid that goes under the machines to get lost cotton, and a piecer is a kid that goes above the machine to fix the broken threads. These were both extremely dangerous jobs, and a lot of injuries and deaths occurred because of these two jobs. But today, if you work at 14, you aren't allowed to touch anything hot or sharp, you're supervised, and you have a lot of restrictions. Obviously, a lot of improvements came from the Industrial Revolution, like the Factory Act. When the Factory Act was passed, that made it so kids could only work from 9 to 13, and if they were working at 9 to 13, they weren't allowed to work at night, and the youngest age was 9. Today, the youngest age is 14, and you're only allowed to work 3 hours a day and 24 hours a week. In conclusion, the Industrial Revolution has changed factory life for the better by equalizing wages